Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm telling you about my Reading Around the World challenge. So most of you should know that I am doing a Reading Around the World challenge where I'm reading a book from every single country in the world. It has been so much fun doing this challenge and I've had a few videos already about this on my channel, but it has been about a year since I've done an update to this challenge, so I thought today I would go through alphabetically every single book that I've read for all these different countries for the challenge. Lydia from the future here. I'm actually only doing half the alphabet because this video is intensely long. So we're doing up until the end of L. So some of the countries have multiple books that I'm going to be talking about. We're going to be going through a lot of books today, so feel free to skip around the video depending on what country you're looking for. Like I said, this is going to be in alphabetical order, so you should be able to find the countries that you're looking for. But I'm going to go through every single book that I've read so far for this challenge. I'm going to be using my Storygraph challenge that I have. If you're also doing this challenge, there is a Storygraph that I've made where you can track your own books like related to this challenge. You can add books to all the different prompts and then track what percentage through that you've done. That is how I know that I've personally got to 40% through this challenge, which feels crazy. It feels like it should be more and also feels like maybe it should be less because there is so many countries obviously that I still haven't read from, but I'm pretty pleased with getting 40% through. And for some of these countries, like I said, I have multiple books. So I'm going to be telling you the books that I read, if I recommend them, which book I recommend if I've done multiple, and just giving you a very short review on each book. I'm not going to go into the blurb for every single one of these books because this video is already going to be extremely long. It's going to be much more of a just showing you literally what I've read, telling you quickly if I would recommend it or not. So hopefully this is really helpful for you if you're already doing this challenge, or maybe give you some inspiration if you want to start this challenge for yourself. You can join on the Storygraph. There's always a link in the description. And also I host a book club over on Fable, and it has just reached 1,000 people who have joined that book club, which makes me so happy. There is 1,000 of us who are reading every single month. We all read together one book from a different country. The country we're currently doing for August is South Africa, and then next month in September we've decided to do Greece. So that is another fun way to consistently keep going with this challenge. So yeah, let's, I think, just jump right in. Okay, so I have my laptop down here. Let me move to the side so that I can put the screen up here. This is what the challenge looks like on Storygraph. So you can see here, I am 40% done with 81 prompts done. This might not be completely up to date though, so we're going to go through and check, but let's scroll through and see if I've done the first country, which I have because it's Afghanistan. So I hope you can see the two books here. I don't know how this is going to work in editing, but I've read two books from Afghanistan, both by the same author, which is Khalid Hosseini. I've read 1,000 Splendid Suns and The Kite Runner. I would highly recommend both of these books. I'd recommend this author in general. They're a very famous author, and I think that both of these books are incredibly beautiful. The Kite Runner I'd say is slightly more famous out of the two, but I would say my preference is for 1,000 Splendid Suns because I connected more with the female protagonist. Next up we have Albania, which I have not yet read from. There is a couple of options just down here of books that I might be reading from, so you can take a look at those. But we're going to just skip on by and do Algeria, which I have read a book from, and it is one that I unfortunately would not recommend. This is a bookshop in Algiers. I probably should have just picked a different book. This one I wouldn't really recommend. I didn't like the way it was written at all, and yeah, can't actually really recommend that one. I haven't read from Andorra or Angola, but I have read from Antigua and Barbuda, which is another book that I would definitely recommend. This is by Jamaica Kincaid. And the one that I read is At the Bottom of the River. But she has many different books, and I would highly recommend checking her out as an author. They were really lyrical short stories, so definitely would recommend that one. Next up we have Argentina. I've read quite a few books from Argentina. I actually love Argentinian literature. So firstly we have Elena Knows. This is kind of a mystery crime book, but you're mainly following one woman as she is trying to figure out what happened to her daughter. Next up we have Not a River. I also would recommend this one, maybe slightly less, but you can see my ratings here on the screen. This is quite a short book and really deals with kind of male friendship in Argentina. And then we have two books by Mariana Enriquez. I would recommend The Dangers of Smoking in Bed over A Sunny Place for Shady People. I really didn't enjoy that one nearly as much. I was quite disappointed in that one. So if you're going to read one, I would do The Dangers of Smoking in Bed. And then moving right along, we have Armenia, which I have not read from. And then we have Australia, where I've got 3 different books from. Big Little Lies. I love this book. This is what domestic thrillers should be to me. This was so much fun. I absolutely love this one. It's like very rich people dramatic vibes, but just like something about the way it was written was so good. I also recently read The Echoes. Wouldn't recommend this one, was not for me, did not enjoy that one. And then I also really wouldn't recommend Restless Dolly Maunda. I do have reviews for all of these books on my channel somewhere. Then we have Austria, and I've also read quite a few from Austria. Austria is one of the countries that people like, it's very confusing to find books because I think of just like when the country was created and like who is basically thought of as an Austrian author is like sometimes a bit confusing. But I read Chess, which I would highly recommend. Also there's Kafka books. Metamorphosis is one that I've read a couple of Kafka books, and also Letters to a Young Poet. I would actually recommend all of these books. I really enjoy them, so it just depends on what you fancy. Obviously this one's more non-fiction, so if you're not doing non-fiction for this challenge, then maybe Metamorphosis if you want something a little bit bizarre, a little bit surreal, or Chess if you want something a little bit more literary. Next up we have Azerbaijan. This is one that we did for the book club, and we read Ali and Nino. So this book is a romance, it's quite adventurous, it's historical, it was so interesting, and I would highly recommend this for reading for Azerbaijan because I learned so much about the country as well when I was reading this, and a lot of it is about the identity of people in the country, and it's about Ali kind of discovering who he is and how he feels about his country, and it's also got this love story in the middle as well. I wouldn't say it was like going to be a new favourite of mine, but like would definitely highly recommend it, especially for reading around the world. We have Bahamas, which I've not read from, and we have Bahrain, which also we did for the book club, and this one we did The Pearl Thief. This one I think is a bit it's very short. It's quite difficult to find books from Bahrain. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's like 36 pages, like you can see. But I wouldn't say go out and definitely read it. But also, if you can't find anything for Bahrain, then it's perfectly like serviceable as a book, and also won't take you too long. The next country let's talk about is Barbados. And this one I read How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House. This one, it was perfectly enjoyable and good. I wouldn't like make sure that everybody has to read this one. This is a contemporary book set in Barbados. It is very dark. It's got lots of themes about violence against women and like the difficulty of surviving in a place that is so hostile to women. And I have read quite a few books like this. The next B I need to do is Bosnia and Herzegovina. I know how to say that. I have 2 books for this. One that I have DNF'd, The Bridge Over the Drina. But I will get back to this at some point. I've basically put it as a pause. I think I will read this. This is much more of a classic. This is lots of people's pick for this country. And it's a classic. It goes over many years, and you're following basically this bridge, or like the kind of town that's on the either side of the bridge. Also though, if you want something else, I have read Black Butterflies, and this author, it depends how strict you're being about what you're counting for authors, because basically for my rules, normally I say that the author has to be from that country, like born in that country, or have lived there for a significant amount of time, and the book has to be set in that country. This is definitely set in this country, but this book, I just have to recommend it because it was so beautiful. I absolutely loved it. It is set during the war, but it is focusing basically on the small ways in which we can be there for each other as a community, and also art and love and, you know, the slow burning of your world without even realizing. Like, there's so much in this book, and I would highly recommend it. Next up we have Brazil, and I have one very strong recommendation for this that we also did with the book club, actually like maybe 2 years ago now, which is The Hour of the Star. I would say I'm definitely going to read more from Clarice Lispector. She's a very like popular pick for Brazil. The Hour of the Star is very difficult to rate for me personally, but I love doing it with the book club because we had such a good discussion. There's actually a live show a recording of a live show that I did still on this channel with my friend Rachel, so you can go and look at that because we're talking about the Hour of the Star in that one, so you can see my full thoughts. This one is confusing, it's difficult to read, but it is worth it. And now that I've had more space from it as well, I would love to reread this. I'd love to read more from Clarice Lispector, so can recommend that one for Brazil. Next we have Bulgaria, and unfortunately this is one that I would not recommend for Bulgaria. This is Time Shelter. This one, I don't know, I think I could have picked better for Bulgaria. This is by a Bulgarian author and it is set in Bulgaria, but like, you didn't get much from the country. This is very much more of a speculative fiction. It's got some like fantastical elements, magical realism kind of thing. And also, I don't know, I just didn't really love this one, to be honest. This one is all about time and like people like really wanting to go back to a certain time in the past and thinking that everything is better then. And it kind of gets very twisty and very strange later on. It could definitely work for some people. Unfortunately, it did not work for me. Next we have Cambodia. We're up to the seas. Okay, how long is this video so far? Because yeah, we're already coming up to 17 minutes recording. I'm worried about how long this video is going to be because we're only up to C. But this is another one I personally did not enjoy. It's another one we did with the book club, and I would say lots of people in the book club did really enjoy this one. I didn't like it. I didn't get on with the way it was written. I didn't get along with the perspective of this story. It does follow a civil war in the country, but for me, I don't know, I've gone into like why I didn't love this one too much, but lots of people love it. It's very well reviewed. You might get along with it a lot more, especially if you like very slow-paced, descriptive historical fiction. That's not usually my type of thing. So this one I didn't quite get on with. Next we have Canada, and I have 3 options for Canada to talk about. Firstly, we have the classic Anne of Green Gables. Love this one. These are really cute. These are obviously children's stories, but I do think it's such a classic for a good reason. They're very sweet and hopeful, and Anne herself is just such a good fun character to follow. And then if you want something drastically different, I have The Push, which is a thriller. It's dark. It's following a mother who is kind of convinced that their daughter is like basically evil, and it's very interesting. And this is another thriller that I can highly recommend, and I'm not usually a thriller reader. And then finally, as something completely different, is Pure Colour by Sheila Heti. This one I would say is definitely less like set, like you don't get a strong sense of place for Canada. The one with the biggest sense of place is definitely Anne of Green Gables, where nature in the place is like a big factor of the story. But this one is very interesting if you do want to read from a Canadian writer, which I think Sheila Heti is. But this one is strange, it's confusing, it shifts perspectives, and at one point it's kind of being told from the perspective of someone who is trapped in a leaf. And this one's an interesting one to talk about as well. So I think that either you'll really get along with this one or you really won't like it, but I want to put it there as an option. Next up we have Chile, and I have 2 options but by the same author. We have Isabel Allende, a very famous Chilean writer, and I've read 2, The House of Spirits and Violetta. Out of the 2, I would prefer The House of Spirits, but I didn't like a lot of the third act, like the kind of final part of this, but it spans a really long period of time. It's kind of one of the original magical realism books. I did learn a lot about the country for this, so that is good for a reading around the world challenge, but didn't totally get on with how it was ending. And then Violetta, I just basically didn't mind this, but I read it and I forgot it. Next up we have China, and I have 2 options for China, and both of them are kind of different to each other. Firstly, we have The Three-Body Problem. I absolutely love this book. And this one is actually really good for Reading Around the World Challenge because it's set in the time of the Cultural Revolution, but it's a sci-fi, but it's also very philosophical sci-fi. And it's kind of asking a lot of big questions about humanity. It's very slow. It is very science heavy, and it goes into incredible amounts of detail as well about the science. But it's one of those books that just like layers piece by piece. There's just all these little like grains of sand that eventually build into something that is just quite mind-blowing, but it takes a while to get there. I personally loved it, but it's going to be not for everyone. If you're not in the mood for science fiction, then another option could be River East, River West. This one I didn't personally get on with as a story, but I can definitely see the merit in this as a story. This is much more of a coming of age story. You're following this family with a teenage daughter, and there is family secrets going on. You do go back in time, like with the parents' generation, so it's a tiny bit more historical, but most of it's set in modern day China. Next we have Colombia. Once again, the same author, 2 different books, and I have wildly different opinions on these books as well. Firstly, I read Love in the Time of Cholera, and I hated this book so much. I really did not get along with it. Hated the main characters. I hated what it was kind of trying to say and like what it was standing for. And I also just didn't love the magical realism and the writing of it. And I thought I would never pick up another Gabriel Garcia Marquez book in my life. And everyone told me that I had to. And then I read 100 Years of Solitude, and I really liked it. Even though a lot of it is written in the same way, everything worked for me in this sense that did not work for me in Love in the Time of Cholera. So obviously, if I'm telling you to pick one for this country, definitely pick 100 Years of Solitude. Both of them are similar in the sense that they span over many decades. But this one to me just felt like you're following just one family, and you're seeing these like almost generational curses as they are like living within this town that is like being like, they are the first people in this town, like the founders, and then also like all the way through these many generations. And everything worked for me in this one that just didn't work in Love of the Time of Cholera. So next up we have Costa Rica, which is another one we did with the book club, and the book we read was Where There Was Fire. This one did not really work for me. It is supposed to be kind of like mysterious, and you're following many different people. You're trying to find out what happened with this fire that happens at the very beginning of the book. I'm not even sure why this one didn't work for me very much. I didn't connect particularly with the characters. I think I've just forgotten quite a lot of what happened in this one actually. Next up we have Croatia, and the book I read is Dark Mother Earth. I really enjoyed this one actually. This is all about this author who basically kind of is trying to write this book, and he has this like, he's not sure what he remembers from his childhood, whether he's made things up, whether he's forgetting things, whether like he was dreaming, and you're kind of following him. It's magical realism, it's got a very dark tone to it, but I just really enjoyed how this was done. I like the unreliable narrator in the way that it was done in this sense, and will definitely recommend this one for Croatia. Next up we have Cuba. I've read 2 books for Cuba, and they're very different. So we read Havana Year Zero with the book club, and I really enjoyed this one actually. It felt very fun and like kind of gossipy in a way, like you're hearing about the drama of these people's lives. They're basically this group of mathematicians who have discovered the evidence of this document that basically proves that the telephone was invented in Cuba, and you're kind of following them as they're trying to like find where this document is. And it sounds very silly, and it kind of is a bit silly, but also it's very fun, and I enjoyed the way it was written. I liked the mathematical sides of it as well, like these mathematicians who were trying to figure out this like mystery, but also they had so many messy interpersonal stuff going on, and I just thought it was a really fun read. I've also read from Cuba the Dirty Havana trilogy, which is so difficult to explain. This book is a wild ride. Some people I think would really get along with this. I'm not sure that it was for me totally. You're following this man who seems like it is the author of this book, this like Pedro, but he is living in squalor. He is trying to basically survive, and it's set during these special times in Cuba, and it's just the whole country, the city of Havana is crumbling around him, and so it's set like all these different chapters are kind of stories within themselves. Some of them are like very depraved, and like the way it's written is just so grotesque, and a lot of it is like very body gross in a way. There's a lot of sex and violence and drinking and drugs and going crazy basically in this, and you're following this kind of insane man as he's like trying to survive, but he also kind of loves it, but he also hates his life, and it's interesting, I would say, but it's not for me, but it was a kind of a wild ride to read. Next up we have Cyprus, and I'm not sure I would count this one because I believe this is actually a Turkish author, even though this is set in Cyprus, so I shouldn't probably have added this one. So maybe we'll skip ahead to Denmark, and in Denmark I think I definitely need to read more Danish literature, but one that I've got for this challenge is The Snow Queen, it was very fun to read a classic, like a children's classic, because a lot of these books are usually classics that I read, like historical classics, I like reading different genres where I can. So it was very fun reading The Snow Queen. Also, this story is very different to how you can imagine it, I would say. Like, this is the story that Frozen is based off. Like, there's lots of Snow Queen within other literature, and this is the kind of original fairy tale. This is a very different story than I remembered or was expecting. So it was very fun to read it. Would recommend, definitely. Next up, we have Dominican Republic, and I read Clap When You Land. This is set in America, but also Dominican Republic, and you're basically following these two half-sisters, but they only realize that they are half-sisters when their dad, who's traveling between them, his plane goes down and he dies, and then they learn about each other's existence. This book is really interesting because it is written in verse. The whole book is not prose, it's verse, so it's very unusual to read, and I thought that it'd be a lot more difficult to read than it was. And I've never read a book like this before, especially like a young adult book. This is a young adult one. So to read the whole thing in verse was highly interesting, and I did really enjoy this one. I need to read more from this author, actually. Next up, we're in the E's now. We have Ecuador, and I read The Inheritance of Orcadia Divina. This one I had kind of higher expectations for. It's supposed to be this like matriarchal family and this kind of magical realism vibe, and she gives her descendants these gifts. It just kind of had a lot of setup and not much payoff for me, so not bad, but like wouldn't say definitely go out and read this one. Next up, we have Egypt, and one I would definitely recommend is Woman at Point Zero. This one is following a woman who is being interviewed by a journalist, and she is in prison, and it's the day before basically she's going to be hung for being a prostitute, and she's telling this journalist or this researcher all about her life. It's really interesting. It's not very long. I'd highly recommend it. Next up, we've got Estonia. This is one of the first ones we did with the book club, and I personally wouldn't recommend this one, unfortunately. It's historical, it's magical realism, but it is just at times incredibly brutal. It kind of like yo-yos between being very fun and silly with being incredibly dark and brutal, and to me it didn't feel like there was enough payoff here. There was definitely really interesting parts about it, but it just, the brutality of it and the way it was written, I felt like did not work for me. Next, we have Ethiopia, another one that I actually wouldn't recommend. I actually had to end up, I don't think I even finished this book. This is The Shadow King. This is following the female soldiers who joined the fight against Mussolini's invasion in the 1930s. I just thought that would be so interesting, and I really didn't go on with this book at all, unfortunately. So, not even sure why I didn't like it that much. But next we have Finland, and I've got a bunch of books for Finland. Two of them are Moomin books. I love Moomins. I want to read more from Moomins. They're so much fun. Would highly recommend these to anyone. They're just like absolutely bizarre and delightful. I've read these two for Moomins, and I preferred this one, Moomin Midsummer Madness or whatever it's called. I also absolutely love this book, The Summer Book, by the same author as the Moomins, but this is set on a very small, like remote kind of island, and it's following a grandmother and a granddaughter, and basically just all these vignettes about this summer that they spent on this small island. It's about the conversations that they have, and it's about the nature surrounding them. It's a very like soft and quiet book, but it's got so much beauty in it, so highly recommend that one. And then also we have The Year of the Hare, which I didn't get on with as much. This is supposed to be a comedy. It's kind of like an adventurous comedy about a man who finds a hare on the side of the road, and it basically derails his life entirely. I think I just didn't get on with the humour of it, to be honest. Next we have France, and we've got quite a few French books here. We have The Little Prince, The Phantom of the Opera, Madame Bovary. We have Small Boats, which is a recent read for me, and another one with Nausea as well. I think I've read a few good French classics. You can't go wrong. Just pick one of them and you'll enjoy it. Out of these that are currently here, I didn't actually love The Phantom of the Opera. I think that one just does work better as a movie. But if you want something more contemporary, then Small Boat is something that I would highly recommend. This was nominated for the International Booker very recently, and it is following basically the migrant crisis and this small boat that went down, and someone being interviewed who was found at fault for not rescuing them on time. Very interesting, very confronting, and yeah, would definitely recommend this one. Next up, we have Gambia. This is another one we did with the book club. This is Reading the Ceiling. I quite enjoyed this, but it just like, I think something about the writing felt a little bit stale by the end of the book, because basically in this, you're following a young girl who is basically kind of deciding who she wants to be with in her life, and then you follow the story, I think it's 3 different times, depending on like which man she picks. And I just felt like it was a little bit stale by the end. I didn't feel like the lives were different enough, and I didn't feel like her as a character came across strongly enough, but it was definitely still interesting. Next we have Georgia, and we read The Pear Field with the book club. I think this is the first book we ever did with the book club. I'm not 100% sure, but I would recommend this one for Georgia. And it is set in this orphanage, and you're following some of these children. It is a dark book. It is very emotional, although I wouldn't actually quite say it's an emotional story, because the way it's written feels very script-like. That's something we discussed with the book club. It felt like there's not much description going on. It felt like you're reading kind of a movie script. But I did still definitely enjoy this one. How many minutes in are we in? Oh, we're in the 30s. Okay, we're gonna have to speed this up a little. Right, Germany, 2 options. Classic, we've got Faust by Goethe. I don't know how you pronounce this author's name. Yeah, this is great. This is the original story of someone selling their soul to the devil. A great book to read. If you want something more recent, there's Good Girl, following a young like Afghan girl who's living in Berlin. She gets tied up in a toxic relationship. She's in the nightlife scene in Berlin. Also kind of good, but like not 100% for me, but still a good pick for Germany. We've got a couple options for Ghana. We've got Homegoing. I would definitely really recommend this by Yagiasi. This is set over decades. You're following kind of the descendants of 2 sisters, one who married a slave trader and one who was sold into slavery. You're following their descendants through time. It's devastating. It's beautifully written. Would recommend. And then also I have Night Bloom, which I didn't recommend as much, but it was like nominated for the Women's Prize like a bit ago. But okay, down to the H's. We have 2 books. We have The Door by Magda Szabo, which I really, really enjoyed, and also a more recent read. Out of the 2, I'd recommend The Door, definitely. I did not like Flesh that much, but we'll talk about that in a vlog. Really intense relationship between a young writer and someone she hires to do her housekeeping for her. So, would definitely recommend that one. Next we have Iceland. We have Independent People. This one didn't work for me, unfortunately. I just felt it was really too long, too slow, too boring, and too like bleak. But this is some people's favourite authors, and I do get that. It's just going to be dependent on what kind of vibes with you or not. Next we have India. We have few options here, so I won't go through them all individually. We have The God of Small Things, Honor, Bandit Queens, Rosarita, and Heartlamp. There's not really a bad option here, just depends on what you like. Honor is a really beautiful story about a journalist going to India, but it's also very brutal. The Bandit Queens is something if you want something more dark comedy, and I absolutely love this one and definitely recommend it on audiobook. Heartlamp just recently won the International Booker, and it's a short story collection, and I do think it's really beautifully written and well deserving of a win. Next we have Indonesia, one that we read with the book club, which is Happy Stories Mostly. I would recommend this one. I've actually read this twice now. It's a series of short stories. I liked it a lot more on the second read, and it was really fun to discuss all these different short stories with the book club. It's following many different types of characters in Indonesia, and usually people who are more on the fringes as well. So I liked that a lot. Iran, we have a couple of options. The Blind Owl, if you want something absolutely incomprehensible. It's an Iranian classic that I did not understand. And then also The Persians, which is a recent read. I didn't enjoy that one either, to be honest. So kind of a miss for Iran. Next we have Iraq. The one that I actually read for Iraq is Frankenstein in Baghdad. Would recommend this one. Really strange story. There's definitely horror elements to this, like especially body horror. So be warned going in, but a fun read. Next up we have Ireland, and there's a ton of options for Ireland. I'm not going to go through these individually again. There's so many famous Irish authors that write absolutely brilliant fiction, and you can't really go wrong. Out of these, I would probably recommend mostly Claire Keegan. I absolutely love Claire Keegan, so give her a go. Next we have Italy. We have a few different options here. If you want something classic, The Name of the Rose was a really interesting mystery classic. And then also My Brilliant Friend. Lots of people like this. It wasn't for me. Next up, Japan. Also another country I've read so many different books from. Some of these I haven't actually read. They're just, I need to like go through and organize this. I'm not going to do that right now. These are two options. I didn't enjoy either of these two. So going down, there's a million other different options that you can go that people have added to this, that I've actually read a lot more of these. Let me just pick one that I would recommend to you maybe. Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to go through and sort these, but I did just add all the ones I've read from this current list. So you can just pause as I go down to see my thoughts on these. Would recommend Hunchback. Would recommend any from Kazuo Ishiguro. Would definitely recommend this one. Would definitely recommend Lonely Castle in the Mirror. So that's just a selection of some of the Japanese ones I've read. Let's move on. We are up to Kazakhstan, which I have read. To hell with poets. I forgot about this one actually completely. This is set in modern Kazakhstan, and it's a collection of short stories. I liked this. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I quite enjoyed it, so I would recommend it for Kazakhstan. Then we have Kenya. I have not read that book, so I don't know why this is saying complete for Kenya. Oh, I have read this book. I just completely forgot that this is this book. So I read A Grain of Wheat, and I actually did quite enjoy this one. You're basically following this village, the group of different villagers, and there's kind of like secrets going on. You're following what's gone on after there was like a state of emergency basically announced in the 50s, and you're kind of following, everyone thinks that this man is like so great, but he kind of like doesn't want to be the center of attention, and you're wondering why. Next up we have Latvia, which I really enjoyed this book for Latvia. This is Soviet Milk. This one is following kind of 3 generations of women in the same family, or 3 generations in the same family, and it's talking about Latvia and its relationship to the Soviet Union as kind of this like child-mother relationship. Very interesting, really liked this one, and definitely learned a lot about Latvia. For Lebanon, I have read The Prophet. This is like one of those books that's just very good for quotes, but like it's kind of just, like I wouldn't say not to read it, but I wouldn't say, oh, it's like so amazing, unless you do like very kind of like, if you like reading famous quotes, then maybe give this one a try. Okay guys, so that's the only L's I've done. So I think we are finishing off this video. That's the first part of this video. If it feels like this is an abrupt end to this video, that's because I thought I was going to film the entire alphabet. We ended up like, it wouldn't even fit on my camera. I think I only got up to L before. It's just not going to work doing it all in one video. I'm going to come back and do a part 2 for the second half of the alphabet. I'll do from M onwards, and I'll do that very soon because I can do like, I've got it all set up. I can just do that next week. So not too long to wait for part 2. Sorry about that. I wish I could have got them all in the same video. But I hope that you enjoyed this video even so. I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreons. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much for supporting me and for supporting this channel. I love you guys so much. I've obviously mentioned the book club so much in this video, so obviously there's a link down below to join the book club. We also do all the voting over on Patreon. We vote for the country and we vote for the book over there on Patreon. So if you want to have voting privileges, you can go over there. And there's a bunch of other stuff on the Patreon as well, and more coming soon. I do hope that this video has been interesting for you to watch, or helpful as well if you're doing this challenge. Let me know if you have other recommendations for me for some of the countries that I've missed out in between. I would love more recommendations as well. I get so many recommendations from the comments of my YouTube videos because I know I have a very international audience on here. I'm very lucky in the fact that lots of people from all over the world watch me here, so I'd love your recommendations, especially from your country, so please leave that below. Other than that, I think that's everything. Make sure that you give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and also make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, also because part 2 is coming up soon and you don't want to miss that. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!